In 1964, Pontiac built a secret supercar so advanced that General Motors buried it before the public ever saw it. It wasn't canceled because it failed. It wasn't canceled because it was ugly or slow or expensive. It was canceled for the exact opposite reason. It was too fast, it was too beautiful, and it was far too cheap. In the dark corners of automotive history, there are stories of cars that failed, and then there are stories of cars that were assassinated. This is the story of the 1964 Pontiac Banshee XP833, the car that could have changed the American road forever had it not been strangled by the very company that created it. To understand why this car had to die, you have to understand the world it was born into. This was Detroit in the swinging 60s. It was the golden age of horsepower, the era of chrome, and the absolute peak of American industrial arrogance. The big three, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, were locked in a street fight. Gas was cheap, speed was a currency, and the American teenager was the ultimate consumer. At the heart of this chaos was Pontiac. For years, Pontiac had been the quiet, sensible brand for your high school principal. But by the early 60s, things were changing. There was a new energy in the design studio, led by a man whose name would eventually become legendary, though not for the reasons he expected back then. John DeLorean. Long before the stainless steel time machine, DeLorean was the bad boy of General Motors. He was young, he was brilliant, and he had a vision. He had just helped unleash the GTO, effectively inventing the muscle car. But he wanted more. He didn't just want to put big engines in family sedans. He wanted to build a pure sports car, a two-seater that would weigh nothing, cost nothing, and blow the doors off everything else on the road. DeLorean's vision began to take shape under the code name XP833. He called it the Banshee. The idea was radical in its simplicity. While everyone else was adding weight and size, DeLorean wanted a lightweight fighter. He wanted a car that felt like an extension of the driver's body. In 1964, the team hand-built two functioning prototypes. One was a pearl white convertible, the other was a sleek silver coupe. If you look at the footage of the silver coupe today, it doesn't look like a car from 1964. It looks like it drove out of a time portal from 10 years in the future. It had a long, sweeping hood, a short rear deck, and a roofline that looked like it was moving even when the car was parked. It was aerodynamic, low to the ground, and incredibly aggressive. But the real magic wasn't just the styling, it was the engineering. DeLorean insisted on a fiberglass body to keep the weight down. The Banshee tipped the scales at just under 2,300 pounds. To put that in perspective, that is over 500 pounds lighter than the Corvette of the same year. Under the hood, he fitted a straight-six engine with an overhead cam. It was a punchy, high-revving motor that gave the car perfect balance. But DeLorean knew the American appetite. The chassis was designed to easily accept a massive V8. The math was terrifyingly perfect. With a V8 in a car that weighed 2,200 pounds, the Banshee wouldn't just be fast, it would be a rocket ship. It was designed to sell for around $2,500, an affordable sports car for the masses. It was the Mustang fighter that Pontiac desperately needed. But in reality, it was something much more dangerous. This is where the dream collided with the cold, hard wall of corporate politics. In the 1960s, General Motors was a kingdom divided. Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, and Cadillac were all part of the same family, but they fought each other harder than they fought Ford. And at the top of the GM food chain sat the king, the Chevrolet Corvette. The Corvette was the halo car. It was the pride of General Motors. It was the only two-seater sports car the company allowed. It was expensive, it was powerful, and it was untouchable. When John DeLorean and his team rolled the Banshee into the boardroom to present it to the GM brass, the room reportedly went quiet. The executives walked around the silver coupe. They looked at the lines. They looked at the specs. They looked at the proposed price tag. They didn't see a Mustang fighter. They saw a Corvette killer. The Banshee was lighter than the Corvette. It had better aerodynamics than the Corvette. And critically, it was going to be significantly cheaper than the Corvette. If Pontiac released this car, why would anyone buy a Corvette? The Banshee threatened to cannibalize the sales of GM's flagship icon. The executives at Chevrolet were furious. They argued that Pontiac was stepping out of line, that a two-seater sports car was Chevrolet's territory, and the Banshee was simply too good for its own good. It was a political death sentence. The car's excellence became its greatest flaw. The order came down from the 14th floor. Kill it. The project was terminated immediately. The tooling was scrapped, the drawings were filed away. DeLorean was told to get back in his lane and focus on the Firebird, which in a massive corporation often takes a back seat to hierarchy. He had built the perfect car, and he was punished for it. It's impossible not to wonder if this moment planted the seed that would eventually lead him to leave GM and start his own car company years later. America never got the Banshee. We never got the lightweight, affordable V8 supercar that could have defined the late 60s. Instead, we got the heavier muscle cars, which were great, but they weren't this. But if you look closely at the cars that came after 1964, you'll realize that the Banshee didn't completely disappear. It was cannibalized. GM killed the car, but they stole its soul. Look at the third-generation Corvette, the C3, launched in 1968. Look at the fender flares. Look at the swooping hood. The influence of the Banshee's design is undeniable. The very car the Banshee threatened ended up wearing its clothes. Look at the Opel GT, often called the baby Corvette, sold in Europe. The styling cues are lifted almost directly from the Banshee clay models. Even the later Pontiac Firebirds adopted the taillights and the nose cone design. The DNA of the XP833 was scattered across General Motors for the next 15 years. The Banshee became a ghost. It was the invisible hand that shaped the look of American performance, even though it never rolled off an assembly line. It is the most influential car that never existed. Today, the two surviving prototypes are worth a fortune, traded among collectors who understand what they're looking at. They are not just cars, they are monuments to what if. When you see the Banshee today, sitting low and sleek on a manicured lawn at a car show, it doesn't look like a relic. It looks like a promise that was broken. It forces us to ask the question, what would the American landscape look like if GM had been brave enough to let Pontiac off the leash? Would the Corvette still be the king, or would we all be driving Banshees? We will never know. The only thing we know for sure is that in 1964, the future pulled into a garage and General Motors shut the door. So here is the question for you. If you had the choice back in 1964, would you have bought the legend, the Corvette, or would you have taken the risk on the Banshee? Let us know in the comments below.